Morning folks, Cam Griffin from Benui Family Grazing. Got a few things to do today. Got to shift the cattle first, got to set up a few more paddocks for the next few days, and then hopefully gonna get out and spread some lime. We've just got a new product at the feed store in town that I work at a few days a week called Lime Impact. It's an organic blend of lime and poultry manure. I'm interested to see how it's going to go on one of the other lease blocks. It's got a bit of compaction, and I've got an inkling that it's got, pretty acidic soil. So I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of straight poultry manure and then this Lime Impact. Check water. .3, 8.4. So around 8,000 volts in the morning is pretty good, and it's always going to be lower in the morning because of the dew. So at the moment we are in winter stockpiling mode. We're on about just over half a hectare each day, rationing it out, trying to get about 120 days rest. So the section we're on at the moment, it is kind of a rocky, shaly ridge, and it is the majority of the grass species are the rose and the tall grass, which is a pretty hardy but also palatable species. We've got a fair bit of sriracha, which is a really good climbing legume. We've got some wincassia throughout the back there, and we've got some phasey bean scattered among it as well. So there's a few good legumes, and we all know how important legumes are. We can draw down free atmospheric nitrogen and store it in our soil. It's a biological nitrogen. It's not a synthetic like urea, and as graziers we have the unfair advantage to return that nitrogen back to the soil in the form of manure and continue that nitrogen cycle. Had a little calf born the other day from Molly, so we got two different cattle owners that we're custom grazing for, and one's only got 6 head here. So yeah, it's good to be able to call them up and let them know that they've had a successful and easy calving. Pretty happy with what we're leaving behind. We're trampling down a fair amount, which is really good. However, in spots we are probably taking more than that 1/3, but I'm not too concerned because we are rationing out our accumulated feed from summer. That's just the way it is. You're gonna have an excess of feed at your growing season, and then a decline in feed when the moisture stops and the temperatures drop, because we're all summer dominant grasses here. Cattle are shifted and they all look well for this morning, so I'll go and set up a few more paddocks now just in front of me, so that I can come past in the mornings and let them in. I try and get a few paddocks, at least 3 or 4, done in advance, so that you're not just setting them up in front of yourself each day. And eventually I'd like to get enough reels and step ins that I can set up probably 7 days worth of grazing, 7 paddock divisions, and that'll come in, do that on a Sunday, and that'll set me up for the week. Hey Bobby boy. So I don't usually have the quad bike here to help me set up new paddocks, but Clint, who I've mentioned a few times, he's one of the cattle owners of the 6 cows that we custom graze. He's also a good friend, and he's a really good bloke, and he's actually just gotten a new quad bike, so he's allowed me to use his old one for a little bit at this block because it's a little bit bigger and it's just a bit quicker to set up paddocks. What I usually use is this little sulky little horse carriage, I suppose you'd call it, and I just use that as my trolley to carry all my step-ins and my reels. And yeah, it's just a bit slower, but it works really well. So I'll go ahead and I'll string up these new paddocks, but I'll probably do a more in-depth video in the next few videos, just explaining how to divide up your pastures to get the intended rest period that you want. Shifted and a few paddocks set up ahead of us, so I'll head back over to the other farm now and set up a little spreader broadcaster to get ready for chucking out some lime and some poultry manure.
Sold 800. Why you moved the dog thing down?
This is So I'm over at Hidden Gold Homestead at Clint's farm at the moment, where I graze about 15 acres at his farm, and then he still grazes the rest. So I'm going to be spreading on one of his blocks and then doing a little trial plot on the other 2 that I graze. So this is a spreader that we're using. It's just a little broadcast spreader, tow behind, wheel driven, and I'm going to be hooking it up to one of Clint's buggies that he's been kind enough to let me use. Was going to use the quad, but the tow bar is just a little bit too low. So this is the block that I'm going to be spreading for Clint. It's probably about half an acre, and it was a pony paddock, so it just had ponies in it, and it was a bit of a sacrifice paddock. And as you can see, it's been, you know, grazed down to almost nothing. This is probably 3 weeks recovery after being ripped with like a yeoman's plough. It's slowly coming back. He's planted out some oats and some sunflower, which is awesome. It's starting to germinate. So the reason I'm spreading lime on a couple of these blocks is because lime's quite a good pH balancer. So in a lot of these blocks where the soil surface has been bare for a while and it's been absent of, you know, lots of organic material being trampled over on it, over time the pH has gradually decreased and become more acidic. And what we're trying to do with the lime impact is trying to increase the pH so that species and seeds that we have in our seed bank, because they are there, we've got seeds, we've got viable species that can grow in our environment. We just have to give them the opportunity to express themselves. So by increasing the pH to a more neutral balance, I'm hoping that grasses and legumes that are laying dormant will have the opportunity to grow and germinate. So this is what we're spreading. Terra Firma make a lot of really good organic fertilizers. Lime Impact is the product. So for Clint's block, I'm going to do a combination of the two, the Lime Impact and the poultry manure that we got here. But on the blocks that I graze, I'm going to do an experiment, a fence line experiment, where I'm just going to spread Lime Impact on one side and poultry manure on the other. So you can see the Lime Impact is in a pellet form, and that's just because it's going to be a bit easier for us to spread out, as opposed to getting a lime truck in to spread, you know, pure lime, the powder, the much more refined form. I'm going to be spreading it at a rate of around 80 kilos to the acre, and that should get us good coverage, and we should see some good results. Definitely should have spread it before we ripped it, I think, but that's just the way it is. So you can see where Clint's ripped. We've got some oats starting to come up through here as well. He did chuck out a bit of a mixed species blend. There's some sunflowers in here, barley, some sorghum, but I don't think the sorghum will come up because it's a little bit too cold. Here are some sunflowers just starting to germinate. What I think this paddock needs now is just rest. It just needs to be allowed to start functioning again. It needs to be allowed to get to seed, and then maybe look at a quick graze just to stimulate the biology. But we'll head down to the paddocks that I graze. We'll start spreading down there. So what I'm going to do in this paddock is, I've already got it divided into 2 blocks with semi-permanent high tensile plain wire, and so on the left I'm going to do just Lime Impact, and on the right I'm going to do poultry manure. I'm going to do it in a pretty dense trial plot, probably of about 1/5 or 1/4 of an acre. So that'll be at a rate of around 100 kilos an acre. So this is a block that I grazed almost 3 months ago. So it's had a long period of recovery. We've got some nice Secca stylo in here, which is a really nice legume, nice summer legume. However, at the moment it is predominantly bluegrass, creeping bluegrass, but I'm just wanting a bit more diversity, and so I'm hoping that the lime impact is going to help raise the pH a bit and allow a broader range of plants to get their chance to pop their head up and have a crack at growing. So I've just noticed this huge patch of phasey bean, and I have seen a bit more of it a bit further out in the field, and it's just got me thinking about whether or not I want to come back and graze this when I was planning on, because I haven't seen too much of this phasey bean in this paddock. Well, at least not in this density, and it is a super palatable legume. So if we have a look at one of the root hairs, you can see it's got nodulation. That's biological nitrogen that we're fixating into our soil. And if we imagine that the above ground biomass is a reflection of the root system below, these guys are still quite small, so I would really love to have a much taller stand of phasey bean throughout here, because if we can get a big stand, a few foot taller phasey bean, think about the proportion of root mass that's going to be fixating nitrogen. Something to think about. So just going on to the next half of that block, the poultry manure is about 2% more nitrogen than the lime impact. So it's just the calcium portion of the lime impact that I'm interested to see, out on the pasture. So that's all I'll probably have time for today, guys, to film. That is, I've got to head back out and do a little bit more fencing. We've got 3 bloody crazy dogs that need a run, so far out. There. Hopefully the rain that we are forecast to get does come, and it helps incorporate the fert and the poultry manure and the lime into the soil. We'll head over and we'll see you guys a little bit later. See ya.